But it's a famous Gagne sleeper. His trademark, Daniels, getting less and less, having less ability to defend himself. That's it.
I consider this story our sleeper of the year. The story of a legend large as life in Minnesota.
Off the farm, you know, he had strong hands for milking cows and lifting bales of hay and whatever else. And I liked it. I liked wrestling right from the day one.
Verne Clarence Gagne, second in a family of 17 children who learned in a hurry how to take care of himself. It was love at first fight, and for the better part of 50 years, he became the most recognizable name in Minnesota sports history. After a slow start at Robbinsdale High School, Gagne won nearly everything in sight. In 1943, at the University of Minnesota, he won the Big Ten and NCAA championships before turning professional.
Did you win your first pro match?
Well,
you beat him.
sort of. He got disqualified.
The old disqualification.
He had me hung over the ropes and choking me.
Now, it says in that headline that did you actually wrestle a bear?
Oh, yeah. I wrestled him a number of times.
Oh, how'd that go?
Well, it went okay.
That was in 1950 when he turned pro. Then in 1960, he formed the AWA, the American Wrestling Association.
Therefore, no Mad Dog Vachon, but here in this place, and I'm glad to have him here, is Verne Gagne. Verne, this guy just looked at you, didn't say anything to me.
Well, he's, you know, the feelings between he and I, Marty, I think, and I don't know whether he ran down because of fright or what it was, but I'm glad he did, because something may have happened in the studio right here if he hadn't moved. One of us had to go, and it was he.
And for the next 3 decades, grappled with the likes of Baron von Raschke. Oh no, how's our hero gonna escape von Raschke's famous claw hole? He'd also tangle with the likes of Gene Kaminsky, Mr. M, Duck Crusher, Fritz von Erich, and Mad Dog Vachon. Gagne would win the world title 9 times as he and his sleeper hold ruled the world.
Where did you ever develop your sleeper hold?
A guy put it on me one time, and put me out, and I couldn't believe it. And I said,
No.
"Yeah, what the heck was that?"
You woke up in the hospital the next morning and says, I'm going to try that.
Well, anyway, so I talked and bugged him to show me how to, to do it. So
Yeah.
he finally did.
But Verne earlier on was a visionary in terms of wrestling and what to do, the components that would make people tune in and go to live events. This was long before pay-per-view and long before big television contracts.
Verne Gagne became an icon overnight. He'd eventually start a television network, the Dumont Network. For Gagne, it was like printing money, as he'd rake in 12% of sold-out gates all over the country.
And that's what I got, 12% of whatever it was. Say it was
And you're-
50,000, so I get 12% of that.
Of that, yeah. And you're looking at these filled stands and saying, oh, I like this.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's a sellout.
Ooh, it's a sellout tonight, folks.
Now in his 80s, a twinkle still comes to his eye at the mere mention that pro wrestling might be scripted.
But I would kid my grandmother and say, Grandma, this is sort of scripted out here. You don't get too carried away. She'd chase me out of the house. You didn't tell her that wrestling was...
I don't blame her. No, I like her already.
But you hear that kind of stuff, don't you?
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I remember
but if you really want to find out how to get in the ring with one of these guys.
You know what? I asked you that same thing 30 years ago, and you put the sleeper hole on me.
That's
Remember
right.
that?
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember it?
Another twinkle hits his eye as he compares athletes of today and those of his era when football players played both offense and defense. Gagne was a linebacker on defense and an end on offense.
That was just natural. That was just normal. And then if you just played defense or something else, there's something wrong with you.
Verne Gagne played on a Gopher team in the 1940s that included names like Leo Namalini, Gordy Soltaw, Clayton Tonemaker, and Bud Grant. All went on to play in the pros. Gagne played for the Green Bay Packers, who paid him $3,500 a year. As wrestling's golden boy, he made $75 grand a year, and says even a wrestler could figure out which made the most sense. His good looks could have landed him in Hollywood, but the movies were missing out.
I don't recognize you in this picture. You look like Marlon Brando.
I got hair.
You have hair there.
I had hair.
And then there's one back here. You look like Elvis Presley without sideburns. Look at this thing.
You need glasses, new glasses.
Actually, the closest Gagne got to Hollywood was in the Marine Corps when he was stationed at Santa Ana, California. And if you're wondering, Verne Gagne stands by his theory that 9 times out of 10, a pro wrestler will beat a pro boxer. Matter of fact, Gagne claims he'd have beaten the only undefeated heavyweight champion, Rocky Marciano.
You'd have taken him, you think?
Oh,
huh?
easy. I mean, about 30 seconds.
But would you box or wrestle?
No, I would wrestle.
Oh,
He's a
well, yeah,
boxer.
but he's a boxer.
Well, but he's a boxer. They say, can a boxer beat a wrestler?
Oh, that's
I've never, yeah. So, they can't.
Not at wrestling, they can't.
Not if you're a wrestler. There's too many things you can do as a wrestler, where a boxer, all you do is punch at you.
Yeah, and they got those
And you
little
grab
pillows.
one
They got
of their
those pillows
arms
on the
like
end of
this,
it.
and
He's wrestled all over the world, China, Japan, you name it, and came out of retirement for the final time to reclaim the title belt in April of 1986. Then, to top it off, 20 years later, in April of 2006, Verne Gagne was inducted into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Chicago.
Boy, I always wanted to try this championship belt on.
Hey,
This
brother,
really
that is
something.
not your belt. It is my belt. And I'll take it away and put my famous sleeper hold on you, just as I'm doing now. And then I will unsnap the belt, and I will get the belt off. Let him have it. It's mine. It's mine.
Stay with us. Up next, the kid who said he'd never wrestle, Verne's little boy, Greg, as the Gagne family reunion continues on Out and About. Then later, it's Melanie's World in Faribault, Minnesota, a fledgling junior journalist still ahead on Out and About.
There it is, Louie. We got another one done. Oh, man, Verne Gagne's 14th comeback. Marty O'Neill would be so proud. Let's go get another one.
Well, when I get up in the morning, this is what I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Verne Gagne, pro wrestling legend now in his 80s, is described as the Jack LaLanne of the 2000s, staying physically fit as though he might be thinking about another comeback.
Every morning, without forgetting, the first thing he does, gets up in the morning and does his stretching. Down on the floor, Pete's always with him, and religiously does his routine, and gets up, a little winded, has breakfast, and is set for the day.
That's for the shoulders. And I think that really keeps your muscles in tone. Let's go, Pete. We're gonna go for a hike. Attaboy. Look at that guy go. Look at that guy go.
He's got a little friend, Pete. He takes Pete for a walk religiously. Every night they go out and do the neighborhood.
Don't bite him, don't bite his legs. I'll hold him back, don't worry.
It was in his old barn in Mound, Minnesota, where he trained years ago, taking pride in developing up-and-coming stars, the likes of 450-pound Chris Taylor out of the great state of Iowa.
Remember, if you're that far gone, get your body over.
One individual Verne wanted to train was his son Greg, but from small on, it looked like Greg wanted nothing to do with wrestling.
When he was a little kid, one time we'd come back from the matches, and I had got cut a little bit and bleeding a little bit. And
Was he crying?
And he said, boy, I know one thing. I'm never going to be a wrestler. He was just a little guy then.
And look what happened.
Yeah, right.
Dad had a match that night, and the tag team match, there was a lot of blood in that one, and then my dad got cut up too, and I saw him, and I walked by the locker room where the Russians were, and then the locker room where the Japanese were, and I saw all this blood, and I turned to my dad and said, I know one thing for sure, I never want to be a wrestler.
But eventually, Greg decided to give it a go and hooked up with college teammate Jim Brunzell to form the High Flyers, who eventually won the World Tag Team Championship.
I kind of developed my own style over the years and adapted a lot what he taught me, but I had three good teachers. I had my dad, Billy Robinson, and Red Bastine. And between the three of them, I kind of developed my own style from there, and went through a training camp out at the old barn in Chanhassen, and with Ken Patera, the Iron Sheik, Khosrow Vaziri, Bob Bruggers, Ric Flair, Jim Brunzell, and myself. And it was 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Hardest thing we ever did.
Greg's matches were often attended by Muhammad Ali, the greatest from the world of boxing.
Oh, Ali was a huge wrestling fan out of Louisville, and he would watch the wrestling coming out of Chicago. And we were in Detroit together. I had wrestled for the Turner Group in about 1994, and Ali was there. They had it was an Ali night, and that's how we had the wrestling matches. And of course, we talked a lot in the dressing room afterwards, and became pretty close. He really, for some reason, he just liked me, and he'd just hang with me all the time, and he would show magic tricks.
The Gagne name in sports continues to grow. Greg's son JP pitched Notre Dame to the College World Series in 2002, beating #1 Florida State by striking out the side in the 9th inning. JP is one of only 40 athletes to ever be named athletic as well as academic All-American at Notre Dame.
And then my daughter Gail, she played basketball at Northern Colorado, graduated, was hired as a sideline reporter for the football, so she does radio and TV, and they also hired her as the assistant basketball coach. And then I've got Pete, he's a sophomore at Cretin, plays football, hockey, and baseball.
Following my brother and sister around, I was in the car pretty much my whole life when I was a kid, and watching them play, it kind of inspired me to do something, so.
Well, of course, if you didn't, he'd put a sleeper hole on you, and that'll be it, I guess.
Most likely, yeah.
It's in the genes. We have to have sports in our life, or we'd never survive.
So what Verne Gagne started over a half-century ago continues today. Long live the Gagne legend.
Don't touch them dials, you turkey necks.
Out and about, we'll be right back. You guys got it?
Don't touch that dial, you turkey necks.
Out and about, we'll be right back.
One more time.
Don't touch that dial, you turkey necks.
We'll be right back. Out and about. I know there was a remember in there somewhere.